Hello and welcome, my name is Lynx, and we are sitting to the driver Takeshiba. Second chapter today, Ceaseless Rage. Okay. We'll see where this goes. A few days later, Lady Hinode got in the car coming from the shops in the city. The driver Takeshiba was waiting for her, opening the door. He couldn't help but notice Lady Hinode's somewhat sad expression. I wonder why. That is. When the doors closed, and both of them were inside the car, and Lady Hinode suddenly said, as if to explain, I didn't have anything I really liked, so I will keep using the things I have. Perhaps. But she didn't finish the sentence. I mean, I assume she already has a load of clothes anyway. Or accessories. I feel like there is that difference, by the way. Once again. Woman versus men. Like, I barely buy any clothes. I quite literally have clothes still, like t-shirts or whatever, that I would wear 15 years ago. They're still around. And I still wear some of them. In a way, I'm glad as well. I guess at least I know I'm not wasting money on, again, clothes. She realized it would not be proper to ask Takeshiba-kun for assistance in such matters, not pertaining to his job. And yet, she truly wanted to be able to. To have a friend like that, at least. You look very nice in these clothes, Takeshiba said after the pause got sufficiently long. It's not that he would not care, or that he didn't understand her slight frustration about not being able to find what she wanted. But every time he saw her, she looked beautiful. And that was all he wanted to say. And had he looked back at that moment, he would have seen Lady Hinode blushing slightly. In the same second, her phone rang and she picked up, her cheeks losing their color almost instantly. Oh. Here we go again. What a great day is it today. Don't you agree, Lady Hinode? A grateful voice sounded from the speakers and started laughing. Takeshiba quickly glanced in the mirror to see Accolade Caracal V10. This machine is unrefined and temperamental, but brutally effective if driven by a competent driver. A pain for everyone. Now that I think about it, have you used like toys for this? That's kind of original, to be fair. Those are toys, aren't they? I mean, this is a cool idea, to be fair. You can't draw. You don't have like 20 cars to use in your story. Just get some cheap toy cars and go with that. Gee. That's a great idea. Who is this? Lady Hinode asked, looking at the car too. It belonged to Destiny's Executioner. Fight al-Harm. Who the hell led this trash into the country? If a man's only wishes legacy of eternal peace, may ultimate power be granted to him. Alright, yeah, but I mean, come on. You can't drive a car for sure. Maybe a mule, yeah, but not a car. Come on. And make it simple. No bargains, no please. You die, both of you! Lady Hinode turned pale, trembling. What was this her life now? Were the rumors she had heard true? Could her rivals have come together in an effort to end her life and her company? Yes. She was just about to reply to the uncouth individual, but then remembered what he had said. It was pointless. She looked at Takeshiba-kun, who in that instant turned to her. She flushed instantly. Are you comfortable?
Yes.
I'm afraid that we'll need to... But he didn't have a chance to finish. He did turn his attention to the road immediately.
I'm ready.
Lady Hinode said quickly, wanting to signal him that she was ready for what would come. Her heart was beating faster as the fear was building up, despite Takeshiba-kun's presence. It was that this man had threatened not just her, but also her driver. I mean, to be quite fair, in all of the situation, it was technically both of them that were going, or, well, were supposed to go down, right? It was not just her, I would say, but maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
I've heard what you did with your Katanaba, your driver. I lowered my rates just to get the first crack at you.
Takeshiba didn't respond, because he felt that perhaps the words were still not directed at him. Their tone...
You truly are as undeveloped as they say you are.
Dude, you came from, like, Middle East, like, shut the hell up. Belong to garbage. Al-Harm burst out laughing.
You despicable...
Lady Hinode exclaimed, angry at the insult, but as much as she tried, she couldn't find the words to continue in that moment. The courseman kept on laughing even harder, as if he just realized something amusing to him.
Time to die, Lady Hinode!
Al-Harm said and stepped on the gas. Takeshiba did the same, and the Aika storm went around the left-hand bend just in front of him. He sent the car into a slight drift. Did he? Knowing that at those speeds, the Caracal would be very difficult to drive. Al-Harm followed with a drift of his own, as the sound of screeching tires could be heard from the powerful machine. Takeshiba managed to straighten the car, while Al-Harm was still at the edge control. However, the driver knew that he could not shake his opponent this easily. Still, the more drifting Al-Harm was forced to do, the worse his tires would get. Yeah, true. True. Provided Takeshiba could drag him into a lengthy chase. Right after the Caracal's wheels stopped squealing, Takeshiba immediately reacted by choosing to dart off the main street. There was a narrow alley into which he fit the Aika storm with surgical precision, all the while trying to make the ride as comfortable for the Lady Hinode as possible. He dropped 2 gears but kept the revs up, smoothing the transition. The suspension was already adjusted so that it offered the most comfort while still being able to keep the Caracal behind them. Takeshiba, in anticipation of this chase, had made these adjustments while fight Al-Harm was tormenting Lady Hinode. The Aika storm shot out of the alley, immediately turning right back onto the grippier tarmac. Al-Harm was not able to get close enough to ram them, but seemingly easily kept up with their pace, only lightly scraping the walls of the alleyway. Still scraping. Which gives a little chance maybe he will scrape his tire a bit. Still. Once back on the streets, it took a few milliseconds for Fight Al-Harm to wrestle the Caracal back under control. He had pushed his car into high speed through the alleyway, and now the momentum was pushing back. The Aika storm opened up a slight gap in the meantime. Takeshiba noticed the opportunity and with a flick prepared the car to turn at the nearing corner, setting up for a power slide which would have his car pointed dead straight afterwards. Is he going to jump or something here? Lady Hinode gripped the seat cushions as powerful forces tossed her to the left side despite her seatbelt. Once in the slide, the pressure eased and the Aika storm was gliding around the corner with the tires smoking and squealing. Alharm, however, immediately saw an opportunity when a small ramp came into his view. Clearly played too much GTA. He assessed his chances and took the gamble. If successful, he would impale the white car and it would be all over. It needed to be done quickly, any hesitation whatsoever, and the lady's driver would slip out again. The time was no!
Die, 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 die!
Fight Alharm screamed at them as his car smashed through bits of wall when it flew off the ramp. His eyes wide open, Alharm kept laughing. They were nothing. They were finished. Or were they? As the wave of his car hit a traffic light, it ripped it clean out the ground and pushed it with such force it hit the Custom straight into the side. A shriek would have left Lady Hinode's lips if it weren't for the impact knocking the wind out of her. She instinctively gasped for breath through the pain in her chest. Takeshiba immediately lifted off the throttle and let the impact push them to the side, absorbing some of the force.
It's not over, you two!
Alharm screamed when he realized that even though he wasn't fast enough to drive his car through them like a spike, the traffic light deflected his landing with a fortunate angle, and he had the Custom on his sides for another chance at a full side impact. Lady Hinode, still gasping for air, suddenly also felt heat rushing into her head. Those words, "you too," that the assassin said. Was he making fun of her? More thoughts rushed in her head, while the situation outside was getting worse. The Ica Storm was vulnerable. The angle of the Caracal so good that another hit was all but guaranteed. Lady Hinode burst into tears, helpless. And then, a jolt could be felt running through the car. Takeshiba used the Ica Storm's Nitro's boost while at the same time using the handbrake to start another drift. All of this happened in milliseconds, effectively ruining the attack position for Alharm. Fight Alharm realized that the maneuver was too late, turned the wheel slight to the right to keep up with Takeshiba. It allowed him to keep the pressure on the Ica Storm, but he has lost the chance to ram it to the side of the car. Furious to no end, and seeing how Takeshiba quickly threaded the Ica Storm into yet another alleyway, he cursed in the most coarse way. The straight alleyway neutralized the battle, but Fight kept following them relentlessly. Lady Hinode, finally able to breathe again, noticed a change in Takeshiba's eyes, which she saw in the rear view mirror in front of her. As if he was in thought. Once out of the alleyway, they were back on the open streets. The Caracal was excellent here, and it was only a matter of time when it would catch up. Maybe that's the goal. With no side streets or obstacles to use to his advantage, Takeshiba did all he could to escape the blue monster behind him. But it wasn't enough. The Caracal was finally close enough to touch the right side of the Ica Storm. Immediately after contact, Takeshiba counter-steered, but the Ica Storm had no power to defend itself against the maneuver that was throwing them off balance.
Die!
Fight Alharm screamed mockingly and desperately at once. Lady Hinode, brace yourself. Takeshiba gently said while Alharm screamed, with his gas pedal touching the floor of his car. The effect was immediate. Is he going to do a 180 turn, basically? Thanks to this guy. Lady Hinode barely got to take a breath when a sharp force spun her around together with the car. The forceful nudge spun them off, and they were brought almost to a complete standstill. But Fight Alharm didn't let up. The V10 in the Caracal kept turning them around and pushing them into an even more vulnerable position, despite Takeshiba countering with all skill he had. A second later, the Caracal was pushing the Ica Storm with Lady Hinode and her driver being almost only passengers. Takeshiba was turning the wheels intensely to gain even the slightest control over the direction in which they were being pushed.
Takeshiba-kun!
Lady Hinode suddenly screamed, realizing what they were heading towards. At that moment, Takeshiba succeeded in creating a small bit of separation between them and the Caracal by lifting off the brake and accelerating with full power. Lady Hinode closed her eyes. Why could she not? What would be so bad? Her thoughts were racing, but her voice was as if paralyzed. Then, A sudden additional burst of acceleration shook her out of her thoughts. The Eka Storm's low-lag turbo kicked in full force. Takeshiba used the momentum to turn the wheel towards a gap in the walls running up a ramp. He positioned the car tilted to one side to fit through the narrow space. Damn. Lady Hinode instantly felt the change in the car's attitude. Were they on their side? Takeshiba had positioned the car, tilted it, and they shot through the barrier, leaning on the wall for stability. The side pillar of the windshield scratched the other wall. But the car had so much momentum, supported by the wheels accelerating from the opposite wall, that they emerged on the other side without crashing. Meanwhile, the Caracal had no time for finesse and blasted through the walls. But the debris got under the car, slowing it down.
To hell with you, useless piece of junk!
It's not the car, it's the driver. Cursed the assassin as he had to over-rev the engine to force the debris clear of the wheels of his car. By the time he caught up with Takeshiba and Lady Hinode, the Ica Storm has already found grip, and the momentary brake in action has allowed Takeshiba to stabilize the car and adjust the vehicle's settings. Crazy. Lady Hinode observed her protector looking at him from the back seat as his hands ran through the multitude of buttons on the steering wheel. Like a wheel, like F1 wheel, basically. The shock of the impact was still having its effects on her, and she would have loved nothing more than to... Well, what would she even say? Thank you for keeping me alive so far. But she felt that, even if things were to go bad now, she still wanted to thank him for getting her this far. But who even says that at a moment like this? Her life is being threatened. He's getting her to safety, and she can only think of her regrets. It would be disrespectful to interrupt him. Would it? I wouldn't say that. She could never do it. The Ica Storm headed into the industrial complex. Narrow paths between shipping containers and the warehouses were all around them. The car, this Lady Hinode definitely felt, was much more calm. And even though Takeshiba-kun was treading it at high speeds through the area, there was something calming about the swaying motions that almost made her faint. Those few seconds without adrenaline, they almost instantly revealed the nervous exhaustion. And when she glanced in the wing mirrors, the Caracal wasn't even there. Takeshiba-kun. He was protecting her.
You can't escape death, dear lady!
That sharp voice... Yeah, right. Over the speakers, it shattered her state of mind. I don't like the idea of giving advice here, but maybe if those assassins were not so focused on talking through the phone. It was him, again. She turned around and saw the blue demolition car behind them, smashing through one of the containers, closing the distance between them significantly. Fidel Harm started laughing and screaming. Debris was flying all over the place, devastation in his wake. Both cars now left the industrial complex. Dude, considering how this car hit so much stuff on its way so far, you would expect it to not want to drive anymore. The car itself. Avoiding or smashing through the debris as they drove through their previous battlegrounds. And on these open roads, the Caracal was starting to gain on them again. How much longer could the Ica Storm resist this onslaught? Lady Hinode half expected to hear the next insult or derogatory comment from the caracal driver by now, but nothing came. The chase has changed. Now the caracal was behaving more like a kind of flood. Following them, never letting them breathe. Always behind them with overwhelming force, waiting for their mistake. And destroying everything in the process. Suddenly, Takeshiba slowed down, throwing the Aika Storm into a light drift. That's not good. Instantly, the caracal was on their tail and set out to push them into a spin again. It was almost too easy. Oh, was that the goal? But just as the caracal almost had Takeshiba turned around, the real reason for this maneuver became clear to Alharm. Takeshiba got Alharm into position himself very unfavorably. If he now was to follow them into the alleyway they previously drove through, and if someone had the helicopter, they would immediately see the geometry of the situation. But
it's all pointless, driver.
Alharm smiled then. The caracal didn't even attempt to hit the alley entrance. Instead, Alharm with the throttle floor smashed through the fence and to the ramp like, well, again? Why are there so many ramps there? He didn't care that the maneuver would damage his car. Now he just used it as a rock to throw after them. A whole wall block collapsed on impact. Dude, I love the fact that... I mean, this looks like a mix of Legos and that other stuff. The bigger ones. The cheaper ones, which makes them better, by the way. Which I don't remember what they are named. I need to check now. Replacement for Legos. What they are called? I'm pretty sure I mean... I had some other stuff. This is not that. This is not that. Was it Kobe? It might have been Kobe what I was thinking about. Yeah. Anyway, the caracal didn't hit its target. But Alharm didn't care. He was now completely transformed. There was only one singular thing on his mind. The white car. And the life of the lady inside of it. And it didn't seem to matter how much of a gap Takeshiba was able to open at times. Alharm was always there, always catching up with relentless power and determination. There seemed to be no way to defeat that car. Its brutal engine, its mighty power. I bet there was. Lady Hinode was barely able to breathe. Her anxiety rose with each violent swerve, bump, and impact. Could it be? This awful brute of man could be their end. I'm sorry, Lady Hinode, Takeshiba said, as if to apologize for his inability to quickly end the encounter and having to extend the battle. More like, dude, in before he apologizes that the ride is not comfortable. With Alharm's disregard to the integrity of his machine, time was on the side of Lady Hinode. But would there be enough of it to withstand the onslaught of the caracal before that mighty car starts showing any kind of weakness?
Kazumi,
she said, so silently it was impossible to hear by Takeshiba-kun. She had often wanted to ask him to call her by her first name, but could never summon the courage to do so. But even now, even in this situation... But her thoughts were interrupted as she felt waveless. Was she flying?
Takeshiba-kun?
She whispered. A hard landing knocked Lady Hinode into unconsciousness. Lady Hinode? Takeshiba called her name, while the sound of destruction could be heard behind him. He could not even comprehend the reality of hurting her. His hands kept operating the car on instinct. A faint sound could be heard from the backseat of the Aika Storm. Lady Hinode, are you right? He immediately asked, his senses sharpened and his determination shooting up with restored hope.
It's all right, Takeshiba-kun.
Lady Hinode replied, using all her strength. She could not bear him being worried on her behalf. It was not acceptable. She smiled, seeing his glance in the rear view mirror. It's all right. I'm all right. She whispered to herself. You don't need to worry about me. Don't even worry about me. With a quick flick, the Ica Storm entered the park grounds. The Caracal was still on their tail. There was no diminished intensity. Fight Al-Harm had now become one with the car. His only purpose in life was to take the Ica Storm down, no matter the cost. Having any other thoughts, even about his opponents, would be wasteful. Nothing else mattered but their demise. The Caracal smashed through the gate with complete disregard for the well-being of anyone. You know, given the way he's driving and so on, I feel like somehow leading him in a place where there might be a train or whatever would be a good idea. He kinda doesn't pay attention to the surroundings. Like, he literally zeroed in on Ica Storm. We could get rid of him. If he doesn't lose momentum, Fight Al-Harm knew he would sooner or later find an opening and demolish the car. All it would take is one direct hit to knock them out. Takeshiba was evading their pursuer through the park, using shortcuts, trees, and the lightscape to never grant the Caracal a clear shot. And at the wheel of the Caracal, all that Fight Al-Harm saw was white. One mistake. He would be ready when Takeshiba makes it. Just one. Could it be? The pressure of the V10 Caracal was getting more and more intense. The blue car had the clear advantage here. What? How? Al-Harm just had to wait Takeshiba out, inching closer with every turn. And now! Takeshiba went on the causeway near the waterfall. The Caracal followed blindly. Yeah. There was no maneuvering anymore.
Takeshiba!
Al-Harm couldn't but scream.
Isn't it for you at your presence?
He continued and started coughing, choking on his rage. And just as Al-Harm was activating all his boost reserves, he noticed Takeshiba turning right, his left wheel in the air as the Ica Storm struggled for grip. This was it. One hit and the Ica Storm was going to be down the lake, drowning both occupants that he would make sure of. And with that, he pushed his car to its absolute maximum. It was only then that Al-Harm felt his back wheel lose grip. And he knew, in that moment, that it was unrecoverable. He watched the Ica Storm as Takeshiba balanced it back and was driving on the causeway away. Adios. Lady Hinode turned around, seeing the assassin's car slide off the causeway into the lake. She turned back to look at the driver, who was about to take them back into the city. Safe. And as it was sinking, there was no sound to be heard from Fight Al-Harm. Lady Hinode took a deep breath, fighting tears. He had saved her for a second time. And he, if only she could. But it was impossible. So, we'll be late for dinner, Lady Hinode. Suddenly, Takeshiba said.
Of course. I can call home, let them know that we'll be late.
She said, looking for her phone, which got thrown around during the pursuit. She found it on the floor on the left side.
Would you like to have dinner with everyone tonight? We are... We would welcome you.
Oh! Lady Hinode said, almost dizzy. How did those words even leave her lips? Takeshiba always made his own dinner and ate it by himself in his separate house on the mansion's grounds. But I have to sleep. Come on, man! What are you doing? What are you doing, man? Go! Takeshiba replied plainly.
Oh, of course. I'm sorry.
What had Lady Hinode said, knowing what the reason was? She had an She had an early appointment tomorrow, and by the time they would get home from here, Takeshiba would have just about time to have his dinner and go to sleep. He always told her he needs to sleep to be alert and able to drive. Asking to join their mansion dinner, it would take too long, given when they would arrive. God damn it! Takeshiba continued driving with silence, falling between them. He felt like if it hadn't been an early appointment tomorrow, he would have loved to say yes to Lady Hinode's proposal. He occasionally imagined how it was in the mansion, especially at dinner time, when the lights in the dining room were lit. Surely they are all talking about nice things. He couldn't imagine anything else but nice things when it came to Lady Hinode. Because she was so nice. Not just to him. She was just nice. Could it be the end of the chapter? Yeah. Alright, with that being said, let's end the episode and we'll continue tomorrow. I guess we should expect another assassin being after Lady Hinode once again. And Takeshiba having to outmaneuver him. Or her, who knows. It's gonna be him. And if it's not gonna be him, I mean, it can be a driver then, right? Had to say that for the joke, for the laughs. I mean, it was a clever way to escape, I guess. With the waterfall supposedly there, very narrow path that would cause you to fall if you made a mistake. You know what would be funny for? If he allowed the Middle Eastern garbage to put him into the river, right? And that guy would also fall into the river. Let's say the one pursuing would laugh and so on while sinking, and it would turn out that Ica Storm has also the ability to stay afloat. You know, basically it's the car that can also serve as a very little boat. There is stuff like that after all. Would be cool. Would be cool. Imagine how pissed the assassin would be in such a situation. Ugh. Also, that made me remember there is like a series of books in Poland about a guy that does work for a museum and literally has a car like that. And he basically kind of Polish Indiana Jones, except less supernatural, or I should say no supernatural. I should read those books again. Anyway, as I already said, let's end the episode. As always, hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider liking the video. If you're new around, consider subscribing. Stick around. More games coming. And yeah, I wish you a fantastic day. Bye-bye.